And just like that, we are live for another edition of Going the Distance. As always, the Going the Distance podcast is brought to you by Going the Distance, my book. It's available on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle copies. Go pick yours up today. If you've bought it, share it, like it, talk about it. Rated on Amazon.com. Still waiting for that 1-star review because I know it's not that good, people. Somebody tear it to shreds, please. And also, the podcast, as always, is brought to you by the Hudgens Training Plan. If you're looking for a personal coach, somebody to help you on your athletic journey or through your athletic endeavors, visit www.brandonhudgens.com to find out more about the different things that I offer. If you are looking for a coach or somebody that can help you reach your goals, it's one of my passions in life is helping people reach their goals. I talk about it all the time here on the podcast. It's one of the reasons why I yap all the time on here and share those ridiculously over the top inspirational posts on Instagram and Facebook all the time. It's because I want to help people reach their dreams, just like I've been able to. So that's why those are there. So utilize them. I'm always willing to help. And if I don't know something, I'm happy to learn it for you so you don't have to. And this week I also wanted to bring attention here at the top of the podcast, and I'll probably mention it a few other times throughout the podcast. A friend of mine, Zach Stone, who has participated in some of the podcast here, asked some questions and stuff over the lifetime of this podcast and has been involved in some of them. He is running the Eugene Marathon in the middle of April. And he has decided to raise some funds for the Vasculitis Foundation during his race. And I'm going to toss up, I'm going to toss up a link here to his fundraiser. If anybody is interested in donating, obviously that would be incredibly amazing. Zach did this on his own accord. He contacted me out of the blue about it earlier in the week and said he wanted to do it. So I've been incredibly honored for him to do it. He said that the podcast and, the kind of the way that I've lived my life has been a big inspiration for him. And he out of the blue decided to do a fundraiser for the foundation. So I'm incredibly grateful for you, Zach, for doing that. So I've tossed up the link there if anybody's interested at donating. That would be fantastic to help Zach reach his goals and support the community that's becoming the larger and larger community that we're kind of reaching through with our message. It's not just me on here yapping about these things. It's all of us starting a conversation and lifting each other up and using social media, I guess, in a community aspect that's not tearing each other down or ranting about something or getting overly political or any of the other million things that can happen on social media that can really be hurtful in people's lives. But I think when used correctly, there's some really fantastic tools. And I try to use it that way. I try not to get in arguments on here. I try to have discussions with y'all, discussions with people, and get y'all's opinions about things, inspire you a little bit, tell you about what's going on in the world and in life, and just share different things because I get to travel all over the country, and I've met tons of really, really cool people in my life, and I get to talk to different sets of people all around the world and all around the U.S., and it's incredibly exciting. And it keeps me out of my little, silo of ideas to be able to talk and exchange ideas with other people. So I want to use that platform here so that everybody else can have some of those same opportunities. But Zach is one of, to bring Zach back up, Zach is one of those people that has running has brought me to. He was actually at App State, and his cousin ran with us on the team, and Zach hung out with us a lot. And then I got to see Zach a good bit. Zach now lives in Eugene, Oregon, and he is. I saw him when I was out at the Olympic trials in 2016, and my best friend also stayed with him. So I got to see him when I was out there. So if everybody would please share, support Zach's thing. Every dollar counts, even if it's just $1. If you've got something to spare, that would be incredibly amazing. The Vasculitis Foundation does a lot for patients. Not to I'm gonna do it, and I apologize in advance, but cancer foundations and cancer research kind of consumes large quantities of the research dollars and the attention. Things like cancer, AIDS, those hot button, those ones that affect so many millions of people, and rightfully so. Like when you've got something like I think the last cancer stat I saw was like 1 in 3 people is going to be affected by cancer in their life. So rightfully so. But there's other things and other rare diseases that have drastic impacts on people's lives and don't have near the funds or the resources for support. The Vasculitis is a really, really small foundation that does a lot with a little. So every dollar goes an extremely long way, and it's not a shell for something else. I've been involved with them since the end of 2015, and we started the Victory Over Vasculitis campaign, and that's just to inspire people and help raise awareness, and hopefully, obviously, someday bring in some more funds for the foundation. But it's just letting people know the resources and stuff that are out there, and the doctors and stuff that are available, because unlike cancer and so many other diseases that people have to deal with, vasculitis in particular, there's just not a lot of good doctors out there, and people don't have a lot of access to those. So the network and the educational tools that the foundation has is very important to people all across the country and all around the world, because that information is not always easily accessible to people. And they make huge impacts on people's lives. And I've been honored to be a part of that over the last couple of years, and we'll continue to do. I mean, it's, I have 2 huge passions in life, the running world and the vasculitis world. And I know I've probably drowned this out to death on here, but those are the 2 things that I care a lot about and I put all my energy into. So it'd be really cool if y'all could donate to Zach's fundraiser. I'll be blasting it over the next month as we lead into the race. And if you scroll up in the comment section, I left a link there available. So it was really, really kind and really, really humbling to see Zach do that. So Zach, thank you so much. So now that I got that out of the way, I asked everybody, or challenged everybody, at the end of last week's podcast, which looking back, I got through it. I don't know how. I guess I was really tired, and looking back on it, it's kind of a little surreal how I managed to get through that podcast after getting that infusion earlier in the day of Rituxan. For those of you all that missed last week or don't know what all was going on, Rituxan, which is a biological drug, I've kind of described it as, for lack of a better word, like chemo light. It's a very popular drug for vasculitis patients, especially GPA patients. I got an infusion of that last Wednesday, earlier the day before the podcast, and somehow got through it, which was kind of crazy. I didn't really think about not doing it until kind of beforehand, but I'd already said I was going to do it, so I had to do it. So I came on here and I yapped, and I think I had some coherent thoughts. I don't know. I've kind of been scared to go back and listen to it, so I guess y'all have to let me know how I did last week. But I made it through it. And I last week I decided out of the blue, maybe it was all those drugs in my head that was inspiring me in a weird way to for everybody to learn something over the next week. So, and learn something, because there's that old cliche saying of you die when you stop learning stuff. So, and there's so much cool information out there, and so much things we can do to improve our lives and stuff. And learning and changing your mind about stuff can be scary sometimes. And I just really thought that learning something, if you try to learn something new every week, that would be pretty cool. So I challenged everybody to go out and learn something and share them. If they spent the time to learn something this week. So if you want to comment, please do. Or if you weren't part of last week's podcast and you have learned something in the last week or in the last few days that might have changed your mind about something, I'd love to talk about some of them. It looks like our boy Zach Stone here has actually hopped on. Zach, hope your ears were burning. We were just talking about you, brother. And I just actually, Zach, threw up a link to your fundraiser you're doing, and I've basically been singing your praises for the last 10 minutes, I guess, or longer. Who knows? I don't know how long ago. Yeah, probably about 10 minutes. So anyways, since you're on here officially now, I'd just like to say thank you for deciding to raise some money for the foundation. Is something that's very, very near and dear to my heart. And thank you for finding inspiration in the things that we do and being involved in this conversation that we're having. So thank you. So hopefully we can help you reach your goal, and hopefully you can not suffer too much during that 26.2 mile race. So marathons are tough. I will probably never do one. So you're a way tougher runner than I am. Or dumber. I don't know which one it is. Probably both. So anyways, back to learning something. So has anybody learned something over the last week? I'd love to kind of chat about it. I have kind of, I'm always trying to learn something. But one of the things that I kind of put together kind of in my head over the last week, that this made kind of a big impact. And it's not that I didn't know this before, because I obviously knew this, but it's like sometimes when something's just presented in a little bit different way, it can just kind of like click a light bulb. Light bulb goes off in your head. And I think a lot of it too is since I had that Rituxan infusion last week, I've kind of been on a break from running. So a lot of my energy is kind of, that I'm used to spending running, is kind of being spent doing some other things. Plus you're tired. I've spent a lot of last week sleeping. I've got a lot of foreign substances in my body right now. I guess you would say my body doesn't know what's going on. So there's a bit of a civil war going on there internally. As they dumped all this toxic sludge into my veins. So you're obviously, your body's just kind of like freaking out. So you're really tired. In fact, I described it the other day of after I get an infusion and waking up the next day or the couple of days afterwards is really tough because you're really tired, obviously. And it's like I was telling my girlfriend it I get this thing where I feel like somebody's laying on top of me, but it's not like somebody's just jumped and landed on top of me. It's like somebody's laying in the exact position that I'm laying, but on top of me. That's the only way I can really describe it. So it's like I'm nice and huddled up underneath all the blankets and snuggled up so tight. And it's just like somebody cut a mold out and just laid it on top of me, of myself. And so that's really the only way I can describe what it feels like waking up in the morning, the first couple of mornings after having an infusion. So there's just these really weird things that happen. like I get some weird vertigo. Like I was running with my I guess it was kind of running. We were jogging this morning, and it I had a really weird sense of vertigo. Like I was having a really hard time, and I was running on a really flat packed trail, and trails, it's a path, not even a trail. It's not even like a trail what you would think of. It's basically a greenway out at Salem Lake, and I was having trouble maintaining my balance, and I felt like I was always kind of like wobbly, and it was just super weird because I'd had a rough day on Tuesday. I think some of y'all probably saw me post about it. It was just tough. I woke up just really sluggish from the as your body kind of tries to rebound and stuff, and kick some of the stuff that it's been on for those days. And I just was like super sluggish. Didn't want to get out of the house. It was cold. It was rainy. But I knew if I could get to the gym that I would probably feel better. But getting there was extremely hard. And getting out of bed was hard. And then I got to the couch, and then the couch just kind of like Velcroed me in. So I was just kind of done. But finally about mid-afternoon, it was like I'd only been awake for a couple hours at that point in time, I guess, because my body was just so tired. Like I'd tried to get up, and it was that feeling where like somebody was laying on top of me again. And I literally could not physically wake myself up. I was trying. So it was kind of weird, and it's kind of scary sometimes. So I got up, I got to the gym, and sure enough, I spent a couple hours there pedaling around. I ran on the treadmill and lifted some weights and got my blood flowing. And then I was zonked afterwards. I was more tired, but in a very, very different way. But I was so glad that I'd gone. So it's kind of like a lesson, not just for rare disease or vasculitis patients, but anybody, like if you just kind of make yourself go there. And I talk a lot about kind of like routines, and, I obviously have a routine of going and working out or running every single day. So a lot of those type things take care of themselves for me. And like as difficult as running may be with some of the extracurricular things in the sport, dealing with money, meets, sponsors, travel, racing, all that stuff, the daily aspect of running kind of takes care of itself. I mean, there's times I obviously don't want to do it, but it's like I have time set aside every single day for those things, and they take care of themselves, and those routines take care of themselves. And so that's less energy. Like it took a lot of energy yesterday because like I'm not in that routine, and I just kind of right now doing what under coach's orders, and I guess technically doctor's orders, like doing what my body kind of feels like. And I probably should have, I don't know, maybe I should have taken the day off. Maybe I shouldn't have. I don't know. But I just know I felt better after I got done. Now I was tired. And, I think yesterday I was probably only awake like 10 hours the whole day between going to bed early last night and having slept super late the day before. Those things take care of themselves. So when you run every morning at a certain time, those things just take care of themselves. And that's not I had to spend so much mental energy yesterday, kind of honestly, as much as I normally would in a normal run, like getting through the run just to get off the couch. So I understand for a lot of people, like a lot of people think it's just because I run all the time that like it's not difficult for us. Like I understand those mental processes that we all have to go through and fight to fight the resistance of things like stopping us from doing stuff. And there's a lot of resistance in life for us doing any of the things that we love to do. And you just kind of gotta plow through them. And that's why I like having a routine with my running and everything else, because those things take care of themselves when you do that. They take care of themselves when you follow that routine. So that's less mental energy you have to give into those things. So, I talked about routine, and not to come back to my book again. But if you haven't picked up a copy of Going the Distance, it is available on Amazon.com in Kindle and paperback copies. Go pick yours up today. But, I talk about how important routine is, and I was super reminded of that yesterday. And, because I was realizing how much energy I was spending on just like, if I can get out there, if I can go to the gym, if I can just get out there and do something, I know I might feel better. So, but anyways, so it looks like, Katrina, you learned about the power of positive thinking. That's so true. And I've discussed depression and anxiety and a lot of the things that come about because of negative thought processes and negative spirals that you can just get yourself into and dig yourself into a deep hole. And positive thinking is really, it sounds so cheesy and so like, is that really even a thing? But it is. It really is a thing that has a drastic effect on you. In fact, they're even finding in some research studies that something as simple as smiling while you're running can make running easier. That's why, like, you hear a lot of coaches, if anybody's spending time around track and field, they've heard coaches talk about how, they tell the coaches are always yelling, relax, relax, relax. But literally putting a smile on your face while you're exerting a massive amount of energy to do something can give you a boost. So next time you're working out, smile, people. And it's one of the things I talked about, with some of my own pitfalls with racing in the past, and some of those mental traps that I found myself falling into when I was racing and working out, and how I've worked out of that. And a lot of that really, all it really is the power of positive thinking, and not beating yourself down, but picking yourself up. It's like, I am a badass. I can do this. It's kind of just telling yourself that over and over again. So I'm glad you learned that, Katrina. That is a very valuable skill to learn, especially early in life, and it will take you a very long way. And that doesn't mean just because you enjoy or have found success with the power of positive thinking, it doesn't mean that there won't be difficult times or there won't be times that really challenge that. But it's reminding yourself to get back to that. It's kind of like the whole, if anybody's ever attempted any meditation techniques, it's kind of the same thing. If the basics of meditation are sitting and thinking about your breath to kind of clear your mind and let your body relax, and not giving power to any thoughts that come up while you're sitting there being still or whatever you're doing. Because there are some yoga formats, I guess, that are meditation formats that are active. So, but it's more kind of like about clearing your mind, and like everybody has this image of like a yogi just sitting there and just being completely peaceful and completely still. But all it really is noticing when something comes up. It's like when you're focusing on your breath and focusing on your breathing, just your mind will wander, and it's going to wander, and it's going to wander a lot. It's going to wander all the time. But just like let it go. You got to come back to just thinking about your breathing, and that sort of technique has, as they've shown under like MRI machines and like CT scan stuff, like the stuff that's going on in people's brains when you do that. It's like learning a new exercise or learning a new pathway. Like you're training your brain to kind of like let go of these things. So it's an incredibly powerful tool for everybody. And that's essentially what the power of positive thinking is. It's not like you wake up and you're like all of a sudden the super excited, bubbly person. It's like, yay, I'm ready to go at 6 o'clock in the morning and super chatty, and I think positive all the time. No, it's not like that. It's like, you just got to think. It's about using those triggers when things kind of get tough and you recognize those patterns. It's like, oh yeah, like I see what's happening here. I recognize this. I need to divert myself. I need to distract myself. And that's really what it is. And that's what's helped me a lot with my anxiety and depression, of not spiraling out of control with that again, is learning to divert that attention. You can't like continue to feed those thoughts. So I literally try to distract myself with any, like when I find myself getting in those mindsets, like even yesterday, like I knew I was getting really sulky yesterday, about everything. And there was some other outside things that were going on. And, it just like stuff was just kind of starting to pile up. And it's like, I know if I can go to the gym, like I'll just feel better about this, and I'll feel better about myself. And, like right now I'm just laying here basically feeling sorry for myself. And I was doing a really good job at it, honestly. I was doing a good job at laying there and feeling sorry for myself yesterday. I was throwing myself a personal pity party, and was enjoying it way too much. And I was in that spiral, and it was kind of out of control. So I realized that, and I was like, and that's when I was like, I've got to get up. And it's like, but I don't feel like it. But you got to get up, Brandon. Like, you got to get up. And it's just this constant back and forth with this, like, just really, for lack of a better word. And I not to bring up the book again, but the inner bitch. And it's just like, I just was like, wanted to just like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I want to do it. But I did it anyway. And that's, it's kind of what busy work was in high school. We all hated it. No, I don't want to do busy work, teacher. I don't want to do another worksheet. But that's kind of really honestly preparing you for what the rest of life is like. Sometimes you just got to do stuff you don't want to do. But occasionally you learn something. I don't know that I ever learned anything from a worksheet, except how to do them really quick so I could go to sleep during class. But no, so that's, the power of positive thinking is a great thing, Katrina. And I'm excited to see how it plays out with your story. And I hope you don't mind, but I might brag about you for a few moments, Katrina. Katrina is a fellow vasculitis patient. And we met last summer. Yeah, last summer. My time's already just screwing with me. At the International Vasculitis Symposium, her and her mother were there. They were part of the younger adult crowd that was got pretty close as the weekend went on. And we stayed in contact through Facebook, and we constantly checking on each other, which is good. It's good for us patients, because sometimes there's just things that we go through that, no matter how close I am to my girlfriend or my best friend or my family or anybody like that, there's certain things that we go through that only other rare disease patients or vasculitis patients will kind of understand. And Katrina's been through a lot, and she was one of the ones I was talking about earlier that's been an extreme benefiter of some of the resources and stuff from the Vasculitis Foundation and the things that they have. And I, not to brag about you, Katrina, but I'm going to. I've seen a lot of growth and a lot of change in her as a patient, because Katrina's vasculitis is in her blood, so it affects a lot. It's a lot. It's this. A lot of the stuff similar to mine and some of the other ones, but it's just a lot different, and a lot tougher to deal with. And she's also a young vasculitis patient, which is very difficult. And I can't imagine having gone through that stuff at that age. And I've seen her grow a lot in the last 10 months or 9 months or however long it's been since the symposium. So seeing you, Katrina, pick up a skill like the power of positive thinking is only going to bode well for the rest of your life. And she's got big goals, as we all do. And that's what it's this about. And that's what inspiring each other's about, and challenging each other and learning stuff and doing all that. That's what it's about. And some of those relationships, like I said, that I've developed through the Vasculitis Foundation, there's a group of us young adults that have gotten incredibly close, and not because we talk on the phone and get chatty all the time, and stuff, and just gossip about everybody, or gossip about who's not in the text message or who's not responding, even though that's fun sometimes, and talk about people behind their back. But no, it's just like there's a certain level, like real recognizes real, and struggle recognizes struggle, and we can be really supportive of each other. And that's, I think that's what's been so successful about the Victory Over Vasculitis campaign. If there's anybody out there that isn't part of that on Facebook, I really encourage you to do it. It's not about everybody standing up and doing crazy, stupid things like I do. It's just about finding those small moments as vasculitis patients where you got to win. For me, that was just getting up and going to the gym yesterday. We all have days like that, and it's sharing how we got through that process, and building the community around those things, because there's so many negative things, and so often you just want to throw a pity party. And it's as fun as those pity parties can be. I was a freaking diva yesterday, and thank God I was at the house by myself. I was not in the headspace to really be around any other humans. In fact, I avoided. I like half the time had on headphones, which don't even fit in my ears properly at the gym, just so nobody would attempt to even communicate with me. I almost went as far as to wear sunglasses inside of the gym. But I stopped at that. I stopped at that level of just ridiculousness. So I was just really in that headspace yesterday, and it's hard to get out of that. And only people that have kind of been in that headspace can kind of understand. And but yeah, my pity party was so much fun yesterday. But yeah, so you gotta realize when you gotta be honest with yourself. And that's, I think that's the beauty of situations like that, and learning from those situations. And that's kind of what became clear to me yesterday is, I had to kind of remind myself of it, because it's like, you're doing this to yourself, Brendan. You're choosing to be a professional runner. Like, you're a professional. You're supposed to be prepared to handle these situations. You just got to get out there and do it. Like, suck it up, quit complaining, quit throwing yourself a pity party. You could easily right now decide to give this up and go do something else, and everybody would be okay with it. But the reality is, you're choosing to do this because it's what you want to do. So be a professional, be okay with being miserable about it. Do it because you love it. And I recently finished a book called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, if anybody's ever read it. There's nothing groundbreaking or earth-shattering in it, but when he was talking about finding the things in life that you really enjoy, and this is the thing that I kind of learned this week that kind of put some of the things in perspective. And it's not like I didn't know this about myself or didn't know this at all, but it struck home with me, because like it kind of made things click and make sense in my brain. When you're trying to find something that you love to do and make a living at it, or carve out your path in life for it, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be miserable. You just got to figure out how to wake up and continue to do it every day. Whether it's writing or being a lawyer, being an astrophysicist, or whatever it is. You just got to wake up and do it, do that thing you love. You got to do it every single day. And that's obviously what I've been doing for running for the last 21 years of my life, for the vast majority of it, obviously with some extenuating circumstances preventing it at some other points in time. For the majority of my life, since the age of 10, I've been waking up and devoting my life to that craft. And one of the things that Stephen talked about in that book that I kind of liked was, when you find your muse, or the thing that you care the most about in life, and doing and really pouring your passion about, make sure it's something that you would do if you were the only person in the world alive. Like, if you're the only person here in the world, would you still do that thing? and that lets you know whether or not you're just doing something for the attention of it, you're doing something for the fame of it. Like if you enjoy doing something enough that you would do it if you were the only person still alive in the world, then you know you found your thing. So whatever that thing is, and that's not to say that you don't need to do other stuff. You don't need to have jobs. You don't need to, you only need to do what you would do if, because that's just not how, unfortunately, life works. We all have to deal and do things that aren't that easy, basically. But your passion should be something that you could do. You can shut your bedroom door, or wherever you're at. Obviously, it's kind of hard for me to just run in my bedroom unless I have a treadmill, which I hate, which I wouldn't do if I was the only person left in the world. I would run outside. So, but you get what I mean? Like, so, you can shut out the world and do it. And, running is definitely that thing for me. I remember, I remember that yesterday, even when I was, actually on the treadmill yesterday, because I had drugged myself off the couch and I didn't even feel like running in the rain because I was throwing myself such a pity party that I drugged myself to the gym and ran on the treadmill, which I don't really like. So yeah, yesterday was all sorts of weird mind things. And as your body, like, cause they give you a bunch of Solu-Medrol, which is kind of a steroid. So like the rebound you get coming off of that stuff, it just puts you in these really weird head funks you kind of can't really explain. So yeah, that was just where I was at yesterday. But it kind of helped me remember kind of back to that book then it's just like, oh yeah, I'm miserable. I didn't want to do anything today, but this is what I still woke up and decided I needed to make myself do. And that's how I know I've found my thing. Obviously vasculitis awareness would be a little bit difficult if I was the only person on earth, because the whole idea behind awareness is letting other people know. So if I was the only person on earth, letting other people know would be a little boring, I guess. But so obviously that passion kind of is quantified by other people, and your passion can be too, but the idea is there. The idea of being in love with something enough to do it, if there's nobody there. Something that's just another side passion of mine. That's another, I think, good example of it is just music. And playing music with other people is fun, but every musician knows what it's like to sit in a room and just practice for hours on end without any disturbances. And, actually, if I was the only person left on earth, probably the two things I would actually spend all my time doing would just be running and playing music, at obnoxiously loud volumes. Especially since there'd be nobody there to tell me to turn it down, like my girlfriend or anybody. I would just plug a Les Paul into a Marshall and turn it all the way up and go to Wembley and just stand in Wembley Stadium all by myself. Katie, so I will get back here on the rails. Kate, looks like the link's being weird. Maybe Zach's thing is I don't think it's private. If I look distracted here for a minute, I am scrolling through the interweb of links, trying to get back to it. La da da. Let's see here if I can get this bad boy to come up. Let's try this again. All right. See if that works. La da 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 da. Let me know if that didn't work. If not, Kate, if not everybody, I'll try to repost that link again. and I've shared it on my own page. If anybody's, I mean, I guess most of you people are listening to this through my Facebook. If you're listening to this on YouTube, I'll put the link to the fundraiser in the description below. But for now, and Zach, if you're still on here, you might could toss it up too, maybe help. But it's Kate, you got his name wrong. It's Zach, not Nick, and I don't think I've been calling him Nick. That would be really. But anyways, if that doesn't work, let me know, Kate, and I'll just send it to you privately or something. I don't know. So anyways, let me see if I can catch up here on some of the other comments. Ashley, I have cutaneous vasculitis, and it's an everyday battle. It's hard to describe. If you don't have it, it's hard. Just keep pushing forward. That's what you have to do. You're the only person I know with vasculitis that I'm friends with on Facebook. Prayers to you for this never-ending battle. Ashley, I, like you, when I, especially for the first, 8 years or 7 years that I struggled with disease, I didn't know any other patients. I didn't talk to any other patients. I didn't do any outreach. When I was asked about it, I even did weird things that sometimes I just literally told people I had cancer sometimes because it was easier, which I hate. Because I hate how easy that is. People have an understanding behind it. And I guess that's ultimately what we want with the vasculitis awareness thing, is for people to just understand that it's something. Because I was also talking with a patient the other day, actually here on Facebook, was that it is it's hard to explain sometimes because you look normal, or somebody like sees me at the gym yesterday and they're like, oh, but you look fine. You look healthy. Like what's wrong? And it's like, well, I have this problem with my cell, like white cells are trying to kill me. It's a very real thing. I'm not a hypochondriac. I'm not crazy. I'm not just like looking for attention or a pity party, even though sometimes I'm going to throw a pity party and you're going to shut up and deal with it. But yeah, it's really hard to explain to people, and it gets so incredibly frustrating. They don't think it's a real thing unless there's something physical, like a hair loss or a scar or something that you can show people. So that's what's so difficult about it. And what I want to change, because I finally got so frustrated with it and tired of it, that I was like, you know what, screw it. I have a platform as an athlete that I'm going to try to use. And luckily I've been able to do some of that, some outreach work with the foundation and reaching out and talking to patients like you. Like, this is all new to me. I didn't meet another vasculitis patient that had my same disease or anything like that till a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, really. So we're out there, Ashley. I promise we're out there. And like I said earlier, if you would just want to search for the Victory Over Vasculitis campaign and request to join, because it is a private group, because we don't just let anybody in. And I don't mean that in you have to be special to get in. It's just like, no, obviously, like, we kind of want to keep it tailored to vasculitis patients and stuff. So, but we pretty much obviously approve everybody. But we do, it's there's a ton of groups out there. And like I said, we're not to talk. I'm not talking, I don't want people to construe what I'm saying as talking bad about the other vasculitis groups, because those all serve a very, very important purpose. Kind of like I said earlier, with the exchange of information on social media, it can be a very, very useful tool and can create an amazing community, but it can also, those things can kind of be overwhelming depending on the headspace you're in. I know even I struggle sometimes when I go on there and look, and there's something that I've wanted to post on there, or something I needed to answer, or something had been brought to my attention, or something I wanted to, a discussion I want to engage in. And you see a lot of the other people and the thousands of other people that struggle with our disease and talk about stuff. It's like, I've got this rash here and this hurts and I'm having this reaction and I don't feel good. And, has anybody felt like this? Like, those are all incredibly powerful things. But that's actually not what the Victory Over Vasculitis campaign for is. And that's what I said, like, those other groups are really good for those things. But the Victory Over Vasculitis campaign just really focuses on like finding those small victories and like encouraging each other to kind of keep pushing, because we all need that encouragement. Like I said, I needed that yesterday. And y'all in this group and the people that have been involved in this journey of mine over the last 10 years, and specifically the last 2, has made this incredibly important to me beyond anything that I could have ever imagined. So, utilize social media, reach out to things, reach out and join our group, Ashley. I don't know if you are or aren't a part of it already, because there's obviously a couple, not to brag, but there are a couple hundred people on there. But that's, there's some of us are very active, some of us aren't. And don't feel like you have to post. Just, I tell people all the time, you don't have to post on there. Just use it for inspiration. And that's why I kind of continue to blast things on social media, because I'm getting the feedback from you guys, and I'm hearing the stories. I'm hearing people like Zach, who I was talking about earlier, who's finding the inspiration of that stuff, and obviously has taken upon himself to do a fundraiser for our cause, as somebody that doesn't suffer from vasculitis, and I couldn't be more honored to have Zach as a friend. So he's a special person. Let's see. Katrina, were you not listening to what I said? What I kind of learned and put together here in my brain was about how, what did I learn? I'm just kidding. I didn't learn anything. No, about how, like, I'm a professional, and sometimes, I need to quit throwing myself pity parties and being miserable. Like, I'm choosing to do this. And that switch went off in my head yesterday when I said, like, I learned that what I am doing, I would still be doing if there was nobody else in the world. And that has changed the way I thought that I think about my running over the last 24 hours. It's like, I do have this very love-hate relationship with it, but I still want to do it really bad, even when I'm kind of at my worst. So that's what I learned this week. I had finished that book about a week and a half ago, and it wasn't anything in there that I found incredibly earth-shattering. I'm already, if you're looking for some other motivation outside of my incredibly monotone voice and poorly written social media posts that often have ridiculous spelling errors in them, not even spelling errors, just wrong words, because I think I'm dyslexic. And I remind everybody that I did write a book and I failed English in high school. So there is hope for everybody, even if you're a dropout. There is hope for you. But no, it's the War of Art by Stephen Pressfield is a really good book. If you're looking for that inspiration, somebody else had recommended it to me. Actually, several other people had recommended it to me. The first half of the book, I really didn't feel like I have the motivation already to kind of get out the door and do things, except for some rare moments. So I didn't really need the kind of the kick in the rear that the first kind of half of the book is, and it's a quick read, so it's not really in depth or anything. But it kind of tries to help you kickstart that, chasing your muse or whatever that is in life. So he obviously used a playful title of The War of Art, which is obviously, there's a really famous book, The Art of War. So, it's kind of a play on that or whatever. So the book's really not like about art. It's about kind of chasing your muse or whatever your art form is. That could be something very artistic, like painting or writing or music but I look at my running as something, it's a sport, but to me, it's kind of an art form in the way I express myself, stuff. But so that's kind of what I learned. It was like a light bulb kind of went off. It's like, oh yeah, like I am doing the right thing in my life. Because I questioned it a lot. Now, like I said, I was still on that pity party yesterday, so it was pretty exciting for that light bulb to kind of go off in my head that, yeah, I am doing the right thing, and I just have to keep reminding myself of that. When it's tough, when I'm miserable, when I'm being a diva, I am totally, especially when I get hangry, I am totally those divas in the Snickers commercial. That is 100% me, and anybody that knows me will vouch for that. My girlfriend, Caroline, Josh, my brother, and especially my parents. So, but actually being diagnosed with vasculitis was a dark point in my life, as it is in most people's life, because a lot of times we're often very sick before they figure out what's wrong with us. It was very painful, and I felt like I was dying. I had a very normal diagnosis period, which was about 6 months, which is about average. And for those, probably 5 months of that, I felt like I was dying, but nobody else thought I was. So it's a really weird situation for most people. And in and out of the hospital with no answers, and it's very frustrating. Actually, that's unfortunately the story of many vasculitis patients. You're not alone. I'm out here doing these things and taking these hits and making myself miserable at times so that we can so that we all have an inspiration, and y'all inspire me every week. The things that y'all post, the things that y'all do, the things that I've seen y'all battle through, it's been incredibly inspiring. And it's made this journey, in a sense, more powerful than I ever could have possibly imagined when I dreamed about being a professional runner when I was 13 years old for the first time. And dreamed about the sub 4 minute mile and dreamed about, doing those sort of things. Like, those things were all, at 13, 14 years old, like, those are your dreams. It's like, those are your life goals. And, I never would have thought, obviously you can't even, when you're 13, you can't imagine something like vasculitis unless it's been something that you've had experience with a family member, something that's just not something that's in your consciousness. So, like, obviously I couldn't really fathom that that's what, the path my life would take, but from being diagnosed at 20, then, 10 years later, it consuming a lot of my life, but in a very good way, in a very positive way, has been amazing. So, I'm going to continue to try to do the best I can to inspire everybody, but I also want everybody to know, that I'm not some superhuman about it. These are all tools, and I'm sharing these tools. That's why I do this podcast. That's why y'all are here. Like I said, I want everybody to learn something. And that's why the podcast is here. That's why my book, which is available on Amazon.com. If you haven't picked up a copy, if you have, share it on social media. Good old-fashioned grassroots word of mouth is still, in 2018, one of the best ways for information to get out there and for people to share stuff. Like I said, the book, The War of Art, was recommended to me by a friend, not even by the interweb or the internet, as you kids call it these days. So yeah, like, word of mouth is still a great thing. So, it helped, that book, this podcast, and some of the other things that I do, and some of the other things that y'all see me blast about all the time, are what help keep my dreams alive. And so I apologize sometimes if it gets a bit much and y'all see a lot of it. But those are the things that help sustain my journey so that I can continue to do this. And the more that y'all buy into it and share it, and the bigger our group gets, the bigger impact we're all going to have. And I think the better world we're going to have. Not to be cliche about it, but that's kind of what the goal of all this is, having a direct impact on the people around you, and those people touch other people, and but not in a weird way, but have an impact on people's lives. So there's a lot of people out there that struggle, and life like I say about my book. When people ask me what my book about, it's about it's for anybody that's going to struggle in life, and at some point in time, everybody's going to struggle. So the book's for anybody that lives life. So I'm going to leave y'all with that this week. I've taken up about an hour of your time yapping into this microphone. I thank everybody for participating tonight. Ashley, reach out to us on social media, and everybody else. Like, if there's any other vasculitis patients out there listening, or rare disease patients, or cancer patients, or whatever, always don't hesitate to reach out. I spend a lot of my time talking to patients. all around the globe, not across the globe, because is the world flat? I don't know. Maybe you should go learn. I'll leave y'all with that. As always, guys, thank everybody for tuning in this week. We will be back next week at 8 p.m. Next Wednesday night, and we will do this again. As always, I've talked about it multiple times during the podcast this week. I don't always do that, guys. If this is one of your first times listening, I don't always talk about the book that much. We cover a bunch of different things. A lot of times we talk about my running and other stuff. So they're all over the place. But this week was kind of a vasculitis centered one. So once again, I'll throw up the links too for Zach's fundraiser for the Vasculitis Foundation. Thanks again, Zach. We're all incredibly indebted to your kindness as a human. The world could use more of you right now. So as always, I'm going to challenge everybody again to go out there and learn something this week. See you next week. Cheers.